Hey, what's up, guys? So we've kind of talked about some of the things with trapping and picking your trap and figuring out kind of what trap you want to use. Next, it's going to turn into the setup. So that's it's just a real basic video, just a quick, simple video. But you have your dogless, you have your dog on. These are all dogless. All these are dogless. It's kind of what I prefer to run now, unless I'm running the Pause Trip pan with the rod style dog, which is kind of similar to the MB 550s or the Duke 550s. So, with that being said, and that'll be talked about in another video, the way I go about setting up my trap is I like a base plated D-ring center swivel. Now I do have guys and I do have buddies of mine that kind of like theirs to be towards the side, or side swiveled, as to say. This trap is side swiveled. It does not have a base plate, so it does not have that reinforcement that you can get, just that extra protection or that extra durability at the bottom of the trap. So, another thing to think about, do you need to hook your jaw ends? Do you need to bubble tip them? So these do really well. They're already hooked. The one thing you have to worry about when we talk about hooking your jaw tips, the reason you do that is so a larger animal, such as a coyote or even bigger, doesn't pop the jaws. When they pull, they can pull pretty hard, and if your tips are not hooked and they're just barely sitting in there in the frame, if they pull hard enough and put enough stress on one side of the trap jaw, they could pop. So people call it, oh, my jaw's popped, I lost the canine. That's one thing about your side swiveled is a lot of the tension or a lot of the force is being pulled away. So a lot of guys, if they do put a side swivel on, they'll definitely make sure that these are hooked. Sometimes they won't worry about these. Another thing that you can do to kind of prevent all that happening is take a welder and just put a little bit of bubble, like a bubble tip, just a little tack weld pretty much on the tips of each jaw, and that'll prevent it from sliding through the hole. Now, with the trap that I run, and a lot of the the more modern traps or your new style traps, so they have a crimped. So like the Alpha here, it has a crimped up jaw. Going to be very, very difficult for anything to pull that out, pop that jaw. And it's already base plated, and it's already got the D-ring, center swivel. It's already set up. So there, you're good to go. Now, to go even further into that, you're going to want to talk about your width on your jaw. So how much surface area are you covering whenever your jaws come in contact with that foot or that pad? Now, if you are just going to go out there and try and catch just a dispatch, a lamination or a double jaw is needed if you're running 24-hour checks. But if you're wanting to save the integrity of that paw, or you're wanting to maybe you're in an area where you're going to be catching some domestics and you don't want to throw a bunch of damage to their paw, then definitely having that extra surface area is going to take the pressure when these jaws close, and it's going to place that pressure across a larger surface area than what it would be if you're just having, you know, a single jaw close on them. So now with the cast jaws, you're getting a lot thicker width of the jaw that's closing on to the paw, or, you know, to your target animal's foot, paw, whatever you want to call it. So I like to run the No BS trap. I definitely want to have a lamination on it, and that gives me that increased surface area, that displacement of pressure across the paw. I also like to have a 4-coiled trap, and I don't need the 4 coils for, you know, added power or pressure. It's more so for speed and being able to bust up through that crust if you get, you know, a frosty night or some freezing temperatures are coming, and you get like that small little layer of crust that's over top of your trap. And just running a standard 2-coil spring, that's not going to give you the efficiency and the proficiency that you want to catch that animal or to catch your target animal, and that's going to court losses, and that's going to definitely hurt your percentage on your catch ratio. So everything is about being efficient and proficient in my opinion. And everything that I do and everything that I try and incorporate into my line is having the best quality products, the best quality traps, the best equipment that I can use. Now, when you're just starting out, you need to use what is available and what your bank account or what your income can handle or sustain. With that being said, if you can afford this trap, or you can, you know, afford something similar to this, like the Alpha or great starter trap, it right straight out of the rip is Duke 550 or a MB 550. They're really good traps, but I do, in my opinion, believe that there are better traps out there. And, you know, in the previous video we talked about, like, you know, if you're a target animal, if you're wanting to do a live market, you need to have a lighter trap that's going to do less upper extremity damage or paw damage, something that's light that they're not going to want to fight and damage themselves, whether that be their shoulder or down to their paw, pulling on the trap. Another school of thought is having a heavy trap where they can't, you know, fight it very long. So having a heavy trap and catching say a red fox, you're going to have a lot more damage to them in their upper extremity and their paw, as opposed to if you would have say a Victor 1.5 soft catch. Now, that also has to take into account the time that they're in the trap. So something that you can do to court that is, if you can afford it, run trail cams. If you can run trail cams and you're just a beginner, and say you're trying to manage your deer lease and you already have the trail cams, set the cams where you're seeing the coyotes and set your traps where your cams are. Now, when you do that, you're going to get notified, obviously, right? So once you get notified, it's up to you to say, okay, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Should I go out and catch this? Well, not always, but if you're doing it for the live market, or if you're doing it to save the integrity of the foot, or say, hey, look, I want to try and keep the fox population high on my property, I'd much rather go out and go after the coyote population, then yeah, maybe you're going to get up early and you're going to go out and you're going to, say, release that fox. And majority of the time, if you're using a lighter trap with a larger surface area, you're going to have a better result than, say, if you left them in there until lunchtime and then went out and, try to take them out. So there's so many variables that you could try and factor in. But the way I like to run my traps, it's super basic. It's not like big scheme like a lot of guys talk about, like you need to have like a swivel mid chain or anything like that. I literally just run the stock chain. Only thing I do is I buy a twist link chain and I go with a number 2 style twist link just for my chain. One reason I do that is because the weight, it'll decrease your weight on your trap. Decent. I don't want to say it's a significant amount, but it's decent. And then I just run your standard swivel. And now what I'm doing is I'm running an extra few links of chain and then adding a quick link to it. Now the reason I'm doing that is so that I can adjust for my home line and run super stakes on chain, and then when I go out of state I can run just cable. And when I run cable out of state, I'll just be able to cut it. It'd be quick, simple, and easy. It's really nothing crazy. One thing with the setup too is I let my pan flop, and I don't really dye them. When you buy these and you have the no BS traps, they come powder coated, so I don't dye them. And typically you can run them for a couple years and not have to worry about putting them in the dye. Just clean them off, power wash them, and then re-wax them. That's all I've been doing. Now, the ones that I have that have needed to, like the paint's been wore off by some coon or something and you get a little rust, I'll just cold soak them. And that'll be another video where it's going to be super basic real quick, but I'll show you how, like, the formula that I use for cold soaking. I don't ever boil my traps. And the one reason I don't like to boil my traps is because I worry about the heat messing up with the tension of the springs. So I'll just cold soak these for about, it's usually about 36 hours, and then sometimes I'll go up to 2 days, 48 hours. The most I've ever ran them, and to be honest with you guys, is 72 hours. So like I had something come up and I just left them in the tub. And I mean, 36 to 72 hours, they've all turned out super great. No issues that I've had to worry about. But I'll power wash them, and I typically always do that. And I have a wire brush that I'll just, if there's any like dirt that's in some crevices, I'll just touch it up. And it's nothing crazy, it's nothing major. It's just, big clods. I'll just brush it out, touch it up, and then I'll throw them through the power washer, throw them into the cold soak with the dye, and then after that I'll let them hang for about 24 hours. And typically it's like the following weekend, if I'm free, I will take them through and I'll wax them. And I typically wax them down, all the way to where my cable stake will be. I don't ever really wax my bullets because they're going to be underground anyways. Or like the chain stakes with the bullets on them, I don't typically wax those. But like I said, that'll be a whole nother video. And this is just a beginner's series, so if you guys kind of already know the whole route, the whole process, just bear with me. I want to go from a beginner series all the way up through like a like an intermediate to a more in depth, and then to an advance. And I have all kinds of stuff that I've been working on and trying to figure out. But you know, my trap set in stone is going to be the No BS wire lever, just the junior, and then I'm just going to run the same chain that I've been running, and I'm going to add this. If I switch up anything, you guys are going to be the first to know, guarantee it. Now, I also have some Dukes, and I also have some No BS traps that are just your standard with your regular levers, not the wire. They're 2-coiled. So what I did, I bought a bunch of coil springs from No BS, and I'm going to add those on. And I can show you guys how I do that. Like I said, it'll be in like a modification series. It's not going to be anything like super crazy, but it's going to be something that will help cut your time, or you know, help cut the curve on learning all this stuff. And once I, you know, one thing just to kind of like segue into is, once I learn, like once I'm super comfortable with these, which I am, I'm also super comfortable with the Duke traps that I have, the number 2s that I've modified. I can use those anytime I want. I just have them on the back burner. I don't set them unless I need to. I don't set them unless I know there's a high theft or a high possibility of like destruction or damage to my trap. And so like they don't really get pulled out much, but I'm not selling them. I'm not getting rid of them. I'm just going to keep them on the back burner. But you know, with that being said, if there's any questions on this, post it on the den, post it on, you know, on that forum, and we can go into it even more thorough. But the next video, I'm going to kind of dive into some of the equipment that I use more detailed. So like what stake driver I use, what stake driver is good for Berkshires, both, whether it's the standard or the heavy duty, what style is better for the super stakes. That's pretty much all I run. So we're going to dive into a lot of stuff: pan covers, trowels, digging tools, augers, hammer drills, SDS bits. It's going to be all covered, and I want it to be a start to finish for you guys. It's not, you know, it's not anything that I think is going to really, it's going to be something for you guys, and that's really all I'm after with this whole process, with this whole online program. I want it to be all for you. I want you guys to be able to get out there and just kick ass and be at the you know, within the top 5%. And dude, you guys can do it. So appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys.